Bamfordrose and another question of the week. Before we get into this week's question of the week, it really helps us if you can subscribe to our channel, click us a like and comment on this week's question of the week, which is the essential questions to ask when buying a car from franchise dealer. This question arose from a V12 VS, and a beautiful V12 VS it was too, which came here for a post-purchase inspection. You don't have to be hanging around this channel for too long to figure out that the two best ways of buying a car that we recommend is either the full bells and whistles option from a franchise dealer, and to ensure a good car you're relying on that timeless approved certified car backed up by after sales care that is surely going to be the most professional out there, offered by the franchise network. If not that, then the Bamfordrose sales portal has got to be the next best bet. A no frills sale, but a sale which represents the most amount of money in the pocket of the seller, and the buyer gets a totally transparent sale from a Bamfordrose inspected car, meaning that the purchase went into eyes wide open and it's highly unlikely to end up with a lemon. Purchasing cars from any outlet within those two extremes probably means you're paying a too high a price without all the frills of the franchise dealer support, after sales care, and because you couldn't trust used car salesmen as far as you could kick them, means that you're probably buying a car that's harbouring some gremlins that the previous owner drove into that sales shop with. We get asked to do lots of pre-purchase inspection, but if the purchase was from franchise dealer, then I'm confident that the sales package that they offer would pick up any problems immediately after purchase if they were identified. That means I don't need to go and do a pre-purchase inspection of the car at franchise dealer. Obviously, the buyer will be looking at the car themselves and they can easily assess tyre, paint, interior condition, and be happy for themselves the condition of the car that they're getting for their money. The next most important things to check on a pre-purchase inspection would be if the car is exhibiting any misfire. If it's sport shift, what is the wear statistic of the clutch? And if it's carbon ceramic brake, what are the condition of the brakes? So if you've asked those pertinent questions and you've checked the exterior interior tyres, what you can see yourself, actually what we would do on a pre-purchase inspection onward from that is quite little. But this car was bought from franchise dealer in exactly that way. Unfortunately, it's got a problem that we detected in a post-purchase inspection. Here's a picture of the front and rear carbon ceramic brakes, and the pad on both front and rear calipers is getting extremely close to the wear limit. And for the very low mileage that this car had, sub 20k, the condition of the discs is extremely grained, it's a rough surface to touch, and all of the colour is coming out of it and it's looking quite anemic. Brake efficiency was poor and they didn't sound too clever either. They had a gravelly type sound instead of an air gush type sound when you are coming to a stop, say from 20 miles an hour to 0. Now, this particular buyer, I did advise him to ask all of those questions that I just asked about: are there any misfires present? Have you put it on AMDS? What's the life of the clutch? And I did ask him to ask them about the condition of the brakes. In an email response, they replied to clutch and misfire, but the carbon ceramic brakes were dealt with on a follow-up verbal exchange over the telephone. Obviously, the franchise network says that the discs are for life, which is quite comical. It's a wear surface, it's a braking surface, it's obviously not going to be for life. They came out with that comment when carbon ceramics were first fitted to Astons on DBS and V12 Vantage back in 08-09, through excess heat and wear, through overuse of acidy type wheel cleaners, and if munched through a few pad sets, then the discs do wear, the discs do reach end of life. We've all known about this for years, yet still the dealer network will tell you those discs are for life. It was widely reported in test and development that discs would do 3 pad sets. If you're a pro racing driver around a Nürburgring, probably going to wear a pad set out in 500 miles. Driving spiritedly on the road and the odd track day, probably 8,000 miles. Normal driving, no real track days, not really overheating the brakes, 15 to 20k for a front pad set. So in the hands of the race driver around Nürburgring, those discs are going to last about 1,500 miles. The owner that wears the pads out in about 8 or 10,000 miles, well, you're going to get 30,000 miles out of those discs. But for the bulk of owners who wear pads out in about 15,000 miles, then something around the 50k is about right for those discs. Any car fitted with carbon ceramic brakes has a few extra pages in the service book, and people are supposed to stamp the book with the date and mileage when the pad sets are changed. Any sensible person that knows the discs aren't for life knows that that's the stamp of doom if you enter any info on those pages. So it's very, very rare to see any data of when new pads were fitted entered into the service book. We'll have to follow back up with how this owner gets on reporting this problem to the dealer. Fortunately, it's immediately after sale. So at least in this country, the fundamentally fit for purpose framework is going to safeguard him. These brakes are fundamentally unfit for purpose. Because the disc surface is compromised, then braking efficiency is very poor, very low. I don't know exactly when, but soon after purchase, the fundamentally fit for purpose safeguard will end. I think 3 months is too soon. I think 6 months is probably too long. That's important because the warranty would not cover the replacement of these brakes. The warranty policy is only there to fix an outright breakage. This would be deemed a wear item. So it's crucial to identify the problem as soon as you can after purchase. So just in case the warranty didn't cover it, the dealer would be duty bound to change these brakes because they're fundamentally unfit for purpose. So as I said earlier, the recommendation is to get in writing those 3 important points. What's the level of misfire recorded by AMDS? What is clutch life? What's the clutch wear statistics? And what's the condition of the carbon ceramic brakes? Then prior to purchase, you've actually got some data that you can hold them to account over, should a post-purchase inspection find anything wrong. Because of the high price of carbon ceramic brakes, then this is quite a crucial matter to understand at point of purchase. Front disc and pads are about 8 grand, and rear discs and pads are about 7. The discs should be a mirror to touch. You shouldn't really feel the graining. Colour should be nice and dark and not go in a browny tanny colour. And if you can't measure performance yourself because you're not used to the braking efficiency of what normal carbon ceramics feel like, then just listen out when you're at about 20 to 10 mile an hour on the brakes. Just check that it sounds like air gushing type sound instead of a real gravelly type sound. Hope you like that question of the week, and we'll see you on the next one.